Hello there YouTube, welcome back to another War Thunder video. Today I'm going to be looking at sim controls on the PlayStation 4 controller. Mainly because I feel like nobody has really attempted this recently, in the last few years at least. There was Gate Gnomes and I think he's called Winging Walrus. They're about the best setups that I've personally came across. But yeah, nobody has really done anything spectacular recently. And I just wanted to give it a go, really, make the channel complete. So obviously we've got realistic controls on the channel already, and yeah, it wouldn't be quite complete without sim. So this is pretty much what I've come up with. So just to give you a quick summary of what everything does before we get into the actual controls, don't want to waste anybody's time. So essentially we have the camera, the view, so the free look, how you look around in the cockpit, we have that on the gyro on the controller. And like I said, I really wanted to make use out of that gyro, so that's where I've put it. Simply move the controller around horizontally and you can look around. Move it up and down and you can look up and down. Really handy, really intuitive. You know, what more can I say? It's great. Obviously it's not quite as good as actual head tracking that we'd get with VR, virtual reality and things like that. But yeah, this is the best we are going to get on console until next generation at least. Head look movement, so head look up and down, and left and right is actually on the right stick, so the right joystick. And again, this is really handy combined with the gyro, especially in this Hurricane here. I love this plane. The cockpit is so user friendly. Apart from these whopping great bars, it's quite good for visibility. So I'm looking all the way to the left here and I can see pretty much everything. If I was scanning the ground here, I'll be able to see it. And you can go over to the right like so. Same thing. You can look behind, move your head up, and you can see anybody that's on your tail there. Really handy to have that set up. Pressing the right joystick in, so R3 will reset that. I also have L3 to reset the zoom level, so R3 will zoom out, L3 will zoom back in, and of course we have the toggle zoom on square. Circle is the map, X is going to be fire everything. I did want to separate the cannons and the machine guns, but I haven't found a way, and as it's sim, you pretty much just get on somebody's tail and fire everything anyway. So I see no real issues with having X for firing everything there. Bombs and rockets, I haven't quite figured this out. I'm thinking triangle plus up for opening the bomb bay door, and triangle plus down on the D-pad for dropping bombs. And I think that would be useful as a close air support role, particularly in ground battles and things like that. But that's probably for another video. Like I say, I'm still working through this. I'm actually going away soon, so I just wanted to get this video up before I go. So we have flaps on D-pad left and right, just like my realistic controls. Trim, so elevator trim is the main one you're going to want to use in sim. I've got this on the D-pad up and down, and I've got 1% increments. So simply tapping it will increase my elevator trim. Very handy to have this when you're actually chasing somebody down directly behind them. You can set your trim, try and match their flight pattern just so you're a bit more elevated than they are. And you've got a pretty stable shooting platform to begin with. I do prefer to set mine negative, so I'm not kind of overshooting, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's something you need, trim. Rudder, I'm going to put that on triangle plus left and right for the rudder trim. And I'm not sure about the actual ailerons yet. I might not bother with aileron trim. I feel like you can counteract that with the stick. It's not too much of a trouble. So yeah, trim, that's trim. Throttle is L1 and R1. So R1 will throttle up. Automatically starts the engine as well. L1 throttles back down. I do also have this on 30% increments when I tap it. So one tap will go up to 30, two taps is 60, 90 and so on. And we also have the triggers, so the back triggers L2 and R2 is your rudder. So if we take a look down here at the pedals, you can see the feet are moving. So the right trigger is the right rudder, and the left trigger is the left rudder. We also have brakes there, as you can see at the top left, that's triggering the brakes. So L2 is left brake as well, R2 is right brake. Very useful for taxiing around on the runway and countering torque. So particularly planes like the 109s. The torque on those, the engines likes to pull to the left. So to counteract that, you just put the rudder on full right rudder and brake. Just keep tapping it, and that should get you off the runway without too much trouble. We also have another set trim button here, so tapping both L1 and R1 sets the trim. I actually got that from Gate Gnome set up a while ago, but like I said, he hasn't actually been on for a few years now, so I kind of borrowed that from him. Oh, on the reset trim as well, that's the 2 back triggers pressed in. But that is pretty much it to summarise. We also have, I'm actually using the touchpad for the quick commands, so if I want to call for cover and things like that, I just swipe left and right. And that is pretty much it. So just a quick summary there. You've already seen a bit of a preview there in the intro of how this actually works in combat. So I won't bother with doing a actual demonstration or anything. So I'll just jump into the controls now real quick. So, controls. So we switch over to full reel controls, and we'll set this to none because we are not in mouse aim. What happened? None. Okay, it's not having it. Great, decided to do a video and it decides to be a pain. Alright, whatever, we'll just leave that for now. Just make sure you're in the full reel controls tab. No, hold on, let's just check this. I don't know why it's being a pain. Controls mode. Done. Virtual instructor, no. Ah, here we go. So you have to set those like I've got there, so none, no, no. And that should put you in full reel. So small and large caliber are X. You may also want to put your additional guns here on X. So if you're running gun pods, that will fire them as well. I have not quite decided on this yet, but like I said, I'm going to put something like this. So triangle plus down. That's also my smoke, which is going to be a problem. Triangle plus up. Again, that's also my open cockpit. But I'm thinking something along these lines, so just bear that in mind. It's not actually finished. This is still a work in progress. Fire rockets, again, still work in progress, but I'm thinking triangle plus X. And the usual applies here. This is jet stuff, not my forte. It just doesn't really interest me. I may get into it eventually, but for now we're just going to skip over it. Radar you don't really need because it's already automatically enabled. It's been like that for a long time now. The only one you might want is this one here. So if you're flying the F6F5N, it actually has a targeting radar built in, so it can be quite useful for finding people and keeping track of them. I've just got this on triangle, so I tap triangle to lock them and so on. It's kind of a niche plane anyway, so you may want to just skip that. It's up to you. I have no idea what these ones do. These are fairly new. I don't think they've added these. Yeah, I'll just skip them. I don't know what they are. So throttle, like I said, pretty much just L1 and R1. There's no axis assigned, and it's on relative control. I've turned mine down a bit on the actual sensitivity here because I want to try and get those tiny increments in. And again, when I tap it, so relative control step even, is when you tap the buttons real quick. So that will do 30% throttle increments. Again, general preference for the WEP here. I like mine to know. Roll axis, so left stick does all the plane controls, so left stick, left and right is your roll. I'm running 2.5 non-linearity. I prefer to have my dead zone as low as possible. Same with the pitch, only I've got the non-linearity way up here. Some people do recommend not going higher than 2.5, but I think on the controller you've got such a small stick, you can't really make any fine adjustments anyway, so you may as well stick this all the way up there, in my opinion. And play around with the multiplier here. I'm running 0.95 on the Hurricane currently because it's just such an easy plane to fly. It's almost impossible to stall it out. But other planes, you might want to lower this. The heavier the plane generally, the more you want to lower it. So the P-47s, they're real heavy planes. I like to run them on 0.65, which seems a bit excessive, but if you take this into test flight, you'll just see how wobbly it is. If you want a stable shooting platform, so you don't want your aim going to be being all over the place, just consider lowering this. And I've obviously changed it up on a per plane basis because every plane handles differently. So your axis, like I said, this is on the 2 triggers at the back. Nothing much really to say. Non-linearity is set to 2, and the multiplier, again, I like to turn this down just to eliminate that wobble. Again, it's going to be plane specific, so adjust on a as per needed basis basically. Really, these are user preference. Any sensitivity is going to be up to you. These are the ones that War Thunder gives you by default. I do prefer to have mine turn up to 100%, but for some reason the game keeps resetting them. No idea what is going on there. Flaps, so left and right on the D-pad, nothing much to say there. I haven't implemented an air brake yet, again because it's mainly going to be a jet thing. If I do start flying attackers and things like that, I may consider setting this up. I'm not really sure where I would put it at this moment. So again, that's going to be possibly a future video when I do finalize these controls. Gear, so left and right stick, press them both in, that does your gear. Particularly handy when you're actually taking off because you don't want to take your thumb off the left stick. So you can just tap that in, your gear goes up and you're not going to crash or anything like that. Left and right brake, so we have this on the axis here, L2 for the left brake. I haven't adjusted any of the actual non-linearity or the multipliers here because I don't really feel like it's needed. It runs just fine on default. Same for the right brake, just make sure you've got the axis set up here. Again, obviously I've not had time to finish this. I would probably put on the right stick. I'm not sure if that will interfere with the head look movements, so I'll take a look at that again. Cockpit view, so when I bring the actual map up with circle, this will also reset to cockpit view and recenter everything. If you're going to be bombing or anything like that, this is something you probably do want. Right, so this is where it gets interesting. So zoom axis, I've got the axis set to L2 and R2. We enable that with L3 and R3 separately, so individual button presses here. So right stick, left stick pressed in. Pressing the right stick in zooms the view all the way out, so you've got maximum field of view and you can see everything in front of you. When you get in a combat situation, just tap L3 and that will zoom back into the default zoom level. Keep value for disabled axis, yes, and that is pretty much it for the zoom. So we don't have a max zoom, it's just min and a reset zoom. We will have the toggle zoom on square, which I'll get into at the end. So view in battle, this is your x-axis, so horizontal view here. As you can see, it's on the motion sensor, the gyro. So either you're on the actual controller, so if you rotate it, that is going to be your view. I've got mine on 1.3 non-linearity. I've got it inverted, and the multiplier is on 2. Y-axis, same again, only it's on the pitch on the gyro, so up and down. Again, 1.3 non-linearity and 2 multiplier. Don't bother with the forward and backward movement. All we want is the up and the left and right. So right stick up and down for the head movement up and down. Reset with the right stick. Oh, sorry. Again, keep value for disabled axis on yes. Set a dead zone so it's not always on and interfering with your flight. Relative control, yes. I've got my relative control step on 40%. It doesn't really apply because it's on actual axis. And everything else should be default there, I believe. So really you just want the right stick up and down and relative control with the sensitivity at 100%, and that should be it. Same with the left and right, only it's going to be the right stick, left and right. And I also have right stick right and left to do a full head look left and right, if that makes any sense. So basically when you're using the gyro to look around and trying to get a position at the back of you, if you push the stick right, that's going to allow you to look past the seat, so you're kind of almost sticking your head out of the window in the plane. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, reset axis on the right stick pressed in, and this needs to be inverted also. Wait, is that right? I'm not sure about the inverted, but that's what I've got. I know it works, so yeah, just go with that. Smoke, so I've got that on triangle plus down. I do recommend setting this up because if you're in a situation where you've got somebody on your 6 o'clock, if you can put your smoke on and call it out in the chat, people will be able to identify who you are, and you'll be able to set people up with kills really easy. So I highly recommend that one. Also the quick chat commands, which I'll show you at the end, very useful. Open cockpit, so certain planes will have a actual cockpit you can open and fly with, namely the P-47, the Thunderbolts, and the Mustangs, and this is really useful in my opinion. The sounds and everything really are amplified when you've got your cockpit open. You can hear everybody around you. Even if somebody's on your 6 o'clock, you can hear them coming long before they're even in shooting distance. So if you're not going to be going high altitude where where there's a chance that you might actually die from the oxygen and whatnot, lack of oxygen, yeah, consider just trying this. I find it really helpful for me. Trim aircraft, like I was saying earlier, that's L1 and R1, so the two top triggers there, the bumper buttons, that will trim your aircraft to what you've got the left stick at currently, and you can reset that trimming with the R2 and L2, so the back triggers. Trimmer fixation, so this one is actually also really useful. If you load up a test flight, you can actually set your trim pre-flight, and if you press options and to save this, that will apply to any future games, so it will actually memorize what you set in test flight, and it's also plane specific, so you can save this on each and every plane, and it will remember every single setting for you in any future game. So if you are going to fly out a plane, take it in test flight first, set it all up, and that trim will then be saved. And the incremental trim, so I've only got the elevator trim set up here. That is going to be on the down and the up button. No, it's inverted because we want down to go up and up to go down. At least that's how I like to fly anyway. But the main thing here is relative control, and I've lowered the sensitivity again 50%, just so I can make those really small adjustments. And the relative control step is on 1%, so that's when you tap it, so 1% increments. I probably will put the rudder trim on triangle plus right and triangle plus left, so I suggest something like that. Just watch this one here, because obviously it's also going to be leave the vehicle. But the idea is you don't really want to be using these in an actual live game. These are mainly for test flight and setting the fixation like I just said. So try and avoid using these in actual live games. This one here is obviously fine. This is the one you do want to be using a lot. Trim, elevator trim will save you a lot of the time. Engine control, I haven't had time to set these up yet. I'll probably just do what I did for my realistic controls, so engine controls mode, I'll just have something like that to enable it, and then holding the left D-pad, so raise flaps, will allow me to adjust everything then. But for now we'll just leave that one. And finally, if we go over to common, so we have circle for the map. Obviously sim, you want the map to be easily accessible, so that's on circle. Scoreboard is on options. I will say use the scoreboard a lot whenever you get a chance. If you see your points going up, that likely means that an enemy is nearby. So if you do see your points going up, call it out on the chat, let somebody know that you need cover and somebody's around you. Multifunction menu, I've not actually set this one up. I feel with the quick chat commands you don't really need it, and I've got a keyboard anyway. Just bear in mind that the game will complain about this one not being bound, so when you spawn in it will take around 30 seconds for that warning message to appear on screen, to disappear even. Leave vehicle, so triangle plus left again. None of this applies in sim. I do need to set up chat, so I use control plus enter on the keyboard for entering the chat. Oh yeah, and reset motion sensor orientation, so this one is pretty crucial if you're going to use the gyro view like I've got set up. There's an issue with the actual PS4 controller gyro. Basically it goes out of alignment, so if you're playing this say for 10 minutes, it'll be fine for that 10 minutes, but it will actually go out of alignment the longer you play. So in order to keep this in order to make it usable, you have to keep resetting it. So I put mine on L3 and R3 because I know I'm likely going to be pressing them a lot of the time. So pressing either one of them will basically reset the gyro. Set target for squadron. It's mainly a ground mechanic really, ground tank mechanic, but I found it quite useful when you're flying in a squadron, because if you point at the ground it will actually display a yellow arrow and let your squad mates know where you're looking. So consider setting that one up, just so you can use it in an actual team situation. Again, none of this applies. I do have the menu set to triangle plus options, just so I can pause the game if I need to do and adjust controls. Zoom camera is going to be square, so that's your toggle zoom there. And you want to set your use touchpad for aiming to no, so you can use the quick chat commands, which we'll get into in a second. I run my camera look speed on 50% for everything here. I do run my zoom sensitivity on 100%, although I'm considering lowering this just because in sim you really need that precision. Certainly when you're firing from a distance, it's really hard to keep it stable, especially on this little tiny stick you get on the joystick on the controller. So quick commands. I only have 2 set here. So as you can see, I've got flick left on the touchpad. It is going to be follow me. And this one is really useful just for calling out your position. If you're not sure if somebody's friendly or enemy, I usually just swipe this one and other people will kind of follow suit with you and let you know where they are on the map, whether they're friendly or enemy. And flick right I've got on cover me. So if you're in a pickle, if you got somebody near you, somebody on your 6 o'clock, just flick right and that will actually call your position out on the map and let everybody know on your team that you need cover. And that is pretty much it. So that is my sim controls so far. Like I said, these are a work in progress. Actually, I'll just show you what I've been doing. So I've been busy here, as you can see. These are all my sim controls. I've been working on them since August, I believe. And I've been on it every day almost, just trying to perfect them. Oh, even July. Yeah, so basically I've been busy. So that's what's gone into the video. I've done a lot of testing, just trying to figure things out on what works, what doesn't work, and this is what I've personally come up with. Try it out, test it yourself, add your own tweaks, let me know in the comments what you do come up with. Like I say, I'm going away. I'm actually working away from home for until probably mid-October, so I won't be back for a month, give or take. So there'll be no videos for a while, but once I do get back, I'll get back on this and I'll try and get back on the videos. But yeah, that is it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Cheers.